Welcome back, everybody, to the Generation Varied podcast. This is the show where we discuss pop culture, sports, politics, business, health, all of that fun stuff. I am your host, Caleb Norris, and I am joined here by my two co-hosts, Jack Widener and Ben Okenge, with our wonderful executive producer behind the scenes, Sophie St. Fermin. Gentlemen, how are we doing this week?
I'm doing great. I just had like a week off from work to visit a family in Colorado Springs. It was great. I have to say, shout out Terry, who made probably the best turkey I ever had. I think the big reason is he smoked the turkey. So I never knew that turkey can be juicy. So
That's crazy you say that, Jack, because this year is actually the year I officially decided I'm done with turkey at Thanksgiving. Like every year I try to convince myself, I'm like, no, it's not that bad. Like I can enjoy it, and then every year I'm still disappointed. So maybe I need some of that because
hey, I know when I walk into before we had Thanksgiving meal, like a week before, we didn't even have turkey on the menu. It was brisket. Like they were picking other option, ham or whatnot. Yeah. Which I was like, hey, I'm here for it. Turkey's been dry for 26 years of my life. I'm cool with that. And the turkey also made like a celebrity appearance, like a last thing. And I'm like, wait, we're doing this? And I'm telling you, the spices hit. It was juicy. The dark meat was the best. Oh my gosh. I was like, all right,
dude.
So, but now I'm just like, what happened?
Wait until wait until you have like a Cajun deep fried turkey.
See, I have not tried that yet. Deep fried turkey. I've seen so many like videos of people like messing up, like they pulled out a black turkey. You know,
that's because people don't know how to cook. Okay, but if you find somebody that knows how to make a good deep fried turkey, nothing hits better than a deep fried turkey. Now, it is violently terrible for your arteries. Violently terrible for your arteries, but it's delicious.
Oh, yeah, but no, other than that, the turkey was great. The sides, the casseroles, were all amazing. So, what about you guys?
I'm doing good, man. I am currently in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic, which is why I'm looking a little bit darker than usual. I've been out in the sun, getting that vitamin D because it doesn't exist in Columbus, Ohio right now.
I need some of this.
You hear that? Yeah, you got it. And they're not too big, are they, bro?
No, dude, these are minis.
It's so funny because I started taking vitamin D too. I was like, well, if Ben says we got to take this, then I need to get on it.
Take your vitamin D's, guys.
Take the vitamin D if you can't get it from the sun. But if you can, go travel to somewhere tropical and get it from the source, because not only is the sun nice, but it's just nice to get a break. Like you guys know, because you guys are both very hardworking and busy guys, but like it feels really good to be able to unplug. This is the least amount of time I've spent on my phone in months, and it's just nice, especially because Abigail also gets this time off, and she works just as hard, if not harder, than I do. So it's really great, very relaxing. Yeah. Caleb, how are you doing?
Listen, I'm doing well. I cooked Thanksgiving this year for the first time.
Ooh. Hey, that's intimidating.
Yeah. Dude, I'm not gonna lie. But here's the thing. I cook, you know what I'm saying? So I was really honestly shocked. But here's the thing. I started on like Tuesday, and like I prepared the things that I could on Tuesday, and then I prepared the things that I could on Wednesday. And so the only thing that I had to make the day of was turkey and the mac and cheese. I want to say it was the first time I ever made turkey.
I feel like
palate came out freaking great.
Okay.
I'm talking the second day. The turkey was juicy on the second day too. Like wow. I sat back and I was like, there's no way I did this, because like the Lord showed me favor on that day. because genuinely speaking, like I just followed, like, I mean, we brined it and then, but here's the thing, I didn't do a whole turkey. I just did a
That's
large
smart.
breast. And the breast was because I didn't think we had like the room for everything like in the fridge that I was at. So I just did a breast because it was just a couple of us eating. I brined it and then I like did like the butter injection thing. And when I tell you day 2 cutting it, it was still juicy. I was like, I think I just got really lucky, and this bird was really hydrated before they got to him.
Shout out turkey.
Shout out that turkey that was about their H2O. Okay, because it was. I can't imagine that I'm just. I will not be arrogant enough to say I'm just that good at making turkey that the first time I knocked it out of the park, it had to have been that turkey was hydrated.
I was thinking about, when I was out eating Thanksgiving meal, a lot of times people bring, dishes they made. So basically kind of like a potluck. But I did think about like, oh, when would I be tasked to do like one of those bigger dishes, including turkey? And I actually don't know, because most people around me, it's like, oh, the older, the parents and whatnot. So that's crazy that I don't know. It feels it's gonna be sooner than later.
Yeah, man, and I feel like that's a good thing. You need people like Caleb in your corner because we are part of this cursed generation that is so used to just like being carried by the older generations. Like when we grow up, we're gonna be screwed. Like everybody's gonna be looking up TikTok recipes for Thanksgiving, and that's dangerous.
Look, I don't know. I feel like things make a comeback. So, for example, a lot of baby names recently are like making a back, like old names. So I feel like you can't say
Someone's
never.
gonna start bringing back the tradition of cooking.
I'm just saying, people are gonna start bringing back cookbook. I know people still use that today. Baking and stuff like that. But I'm saying, like, when people start using TikTok, they realize that, hey, there's not enough information because I keep messing up and I don't know why.
Yeah. Learning how to cook is genuinely, like, it amazes me when I talk to somebody and they're like our age and they're like, and they couldn't make like scrambled eggs or something like that.
Yeah, that's sad. And it's a lot of them too.
Dude, it's so many people.
Now, here's the crazy thing. When you make pasta and you say that's cooking, I'm like, no.
When
you
it's
just
just like
you just put the noodles in a boil of water and heat it up. That's not. You gotta season the thing. Then searing everything.
Have you guys ever seen that clip of that radio host in Atlanta that was trying to roast Cat Williams, and he was like, and what do you cook? And she goes, well, I make a nice broccoli. And she goes, somebody look up how to make broccoli and see if it don't say boil some water.
Yo, Cat Williams, the last person you want to roast. That's a first mistake, right?
Crazy. Cat Williams knows where all of the bodies are buried. He has his money, so he doesn't need to kiss up to any. The last person I would ever cross is Cat Williams.
Well, here's a question I have for you both. In spirit of Thanksgiving and whatnot, Black Friday and Cyber Mondays, is that even a thing anymore? Tell me, did you shop during those times? Obviously, us when we grew up, people lined up for, the midnight drop of, all these deals. We've seen a lot of news coverage the next day about people getting injured or severely hurt, big fights that broke out. Now, we know, like, that's not really a thing. So, yeah, did you do any Cyber Monday or Black Friday shopping?
So I did some, but it was all for, so here's what I do, because genuinely speaking, and I know we're going to talk about this here in a little bit, but when it comes to spending versus saving, I have two modes. I'm either save every single penny, spend no money at all, or I'm like, charge it to my card, baby, because run it up. Run that bill up. We want appetizers. I want drinks flowing. Okay, yes, and okay. No, I want two. Bring two of them out here. Here's the thing. So because of that, I have to be like, really, really smart, because it's like once I get in the mode, so what I do for myself is I keep a running list of everything that I want. And that keeps me, because a lot of times we impulse spend just because it's like, oh, I want it and I'll forget about it and maybe it won't. So it's like I keep a running list with like a link and all that kind of stuff. And then if you use like Capital One's little extension, it'll show you, like, if you click on that link, like, hey, you could buy this like so much cheaper on this website or something like that. So I did buy a couple of things off of my list that I wanted just because there was a good deal on a couple of them, but it was like I didn't do a ton. Like I bought 2 things for myself. I bought a couple of Christmas gifts for people that were already on my list of Christmas gifts. So I think I spent like $300, but it wasn't a ton of money across like 5 or 6 items or something like that. So
Nice. I feel like Black Friday is unique because it's like if you have that those two modes you're talking about, if you have like a Venn diagram of like saving money and spending money, Black Friday is like the space right in the middle.
yeah,
Because it's like you feel like you're saving, and so you just want to buy more because the deals, you know?
it's the perfect storm. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it sounds like Black Friday is the equivalent to the Costco hot dog, if it was a day.
It's so true.
Black Friday and Cyber Mondays had definitely become more of like, hey, I'm just using this time to buy gifts for my friends and family. I think there's a lot of people out there who definitely have a lot of nostalgia of camping out in the store or going with the family, the cousins, to Target or Walmart. I think there is excitement in that. It's just not the same anymore. And I don't think that's ever going to come back, because why go out into the freezing cold when you can just click Prime now? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the boat I'm in.
I never even got to really experience that because like I moved to America in 2017. My first Thanksgiving here was like 2018, I think. I went Black Friday shopping, but it was not like what I was expecting because I had heard all these stories and grew up like seeing the videos of like, oh, Black Friday in America is crazy. So now it's like really, you find the deals online, and I like, just like Caleb said, like I personally, I'll buy gifts for people for Christmas and stuff on like around that Black Friday time. But aside from that, I don't really get too excited about it. Actually, one of my big like pet peeves that I've been having, that I've talked a lot about this year, it's that I feel like this whole Black Friday, Cyber Monday thing is just getting like more and more drawn out every year. Like some of these Black Friday deals, they be starting at like the beginning of November, and then they extend. It's like it's not a Black Friday sale if it's for like a whole month long. Like this doesn't feel special anymore.
I think this is just maybe something we can talk about another time, but I know this year specifically, Target and Walmart are not performing well at all. They're not meeting any of their goals for quarters. The only retailers that's doing well is Amazon and Costco. Yeah, it makes sense why you want to, like HBO Max, why are you doing $3 for 6 months? Because nobody is, Speaking of Thanksgiving traditions, and when it comes to Thanksgiving, football is a big thing in the United States. And one thing that's, I've been pretty close to it since starting dating my wife, Becca. Her family is a big Ohio State University, Ohio OSU fan. You scream OH, you'll hear IO, and every close corner. Anyways, I've been watching Michigan. I think few years, just being Michigan just crushing Ohio State, and surely this year was not going to be the year.
Jack, I'm going to stop you right there. I'm going to ask you to refer to them as the team up north.
Yeah,
when you
respectfully,
please.
The hate between these two teams, I didn't think the rivalry was this big, but there's a reason it's called The Game. When it's shown like the scoreboard on the TV, it literally has The Game on there. So listeners, we know Ben and Caleb are both big Ohio State University fans and students and growing up in the fandom. Tell me what it was like to have a 93% chance of winning on Saturday. The money line was minus 1,200 for Ohio State to win. and plus 750 for Michigan, ranked number 2 against an unranked team.
That was 6-5.
6-5. And you're playing it. What's it called? The horseshoe?
Jack, you're being a little too cavalier
No,
about
no,
how
no, no, no.
you're saying this right now.
I want to paint the picture of the upset. That's all I'm doing. So
Listen,
the floor is yours. The floor is yours. Where were you at? What was it like watching it? Yeah.
I'll start because unfortunately, I don't know. It started off feeling unfortunate, but like here in the Dominican, I wasn't able to stream the game at all. It wasn't on TV anywhere, and like none of my illegal streaming sites were working at the time. And so I was just watching the Google like play by play. Like I kept refreshing and stuff. I genuinely thought that my internet was just lagging because I was like, why is the score so low? Like what's happened? We should be scoring touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. What's going on? Then I just kept refreshing only to find out that like, nah, I'm seeing the play by play. We just can't get it done. And
Can't kick the ball.
yeah, it just broke my heart. Luckily, I wasn't able to actually see that tragedy, but Caleb, you got to break it down because you were there.
Dude, it was so I haven't been to a Buckeye game this season, and I normally try to go every single season. And the main reason is that, so I wasn't a student like Ben was, but my grandfather, I grew up going to games with him, and so I developed a deep love for Ohio State because of just because of my grandfather's love for it, my family's love for it. I can't describe to you when I got this fiery, passionate hatred for the team up north, but it was given to me as a child. And I just remember seeing the colors, maize and gold, and becoming enraged even as an infant. And I have kept a hold of that anger my whole life, and I thank God for it every day. But what I'll say is this, is that it was so disappointing here's the thing. Ohio State, for the last couple of seasons, has only won games when they outmatch somebody's talent. The second a team has similar level talent, their talent becomes nullified, and it comes down to whose coach is better at outmaneuvering the other, and we always get outmaneuvered.
Facts.
And it's really, really disappointing to see in my lifetime. So I'm in my late 20s. I won't say the exact year, but I'm in my late 20s. And in my lifetime, Michigan has never beat Ohio State, even back to back, let alone 3 years in a row. Hasn't happened in my lifetime. So it really is something that I'm just like not used to losing to this team. Especially when you look at just like how the plays have been called. It really, when it came down to it, a lot of it just came down to a lot of bad decision making. I was there. It was a lot of fun I love going to the games, but it was really, really disappointing when you know that this team has the talent. This is the most paid team in the country, most paid coaches staff in the country. There's no reason that we should be losing to an unranked team.
Well, Caleb, tell me this then. Since you were born into a OSU family, and obviously Michigan is a big rivalry. Do you have like, what's your first memory of like? Because people talk about rivalries, but experiencing it firsthand. Because I think there's a difference, and I think that's always just a fun thing to like think about when you're, as a kid.
There was this so there were always teams growing up. So for our listeners, for context, I played football for 12 years, from the time I was 6 up until the time I was 18, every single year. It was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. It's made me a lot of who I am today, about like working hard, not being conflict averse, not, being able to take a hit and keep on running, like all of those kinds of things. And so for me, I think some of my earliest rivalries happened in like Pee Wee football and like Pee Wee baseball. Everybody remembers like the teams that as a kid, it's just like childhood lore of like, oh, that team, hate them, you know what I'm saying? But like the big rivalry, when I think back like over all of my time playing sports was when I was in high school. So I went to Jonathan Alder High School. It was against our big rivals, Clinton Massey.
Oh,
And to this day, I hate Clinton Massey. Okay, I couldn't tell you what city they're in. I couldn't tell you anything about them. Okay, but to this day, just because of the rivalry between our teams, I hate them. And they were a really good team, like our team was. And so it was like every year, like one year we'd win, the next year they'd win, the next year we'd win. It was genuinely this back and forth throughout my time playing in high school. And it was a lot of fun, but yeah, hate them.
wow.
Lots of
Ben,
hatred.
Hate
Do
them.
you have-
It's like it's been almost 2 decades
Yeah.
to lose and sleep over them.
To this day, it's like, you still hate Clinton Massey? To this day!
Yeah.
To this day!
To this day.
Ben, you went to an international boarding school. What was that like? Like, do you have any? I guess when it comes to that landscape, because I
Yeah.
think when I went to Osceola High School in Iowa, like when I came to US to learn English,
Mhm.
I definitely, I mean, there's rivalries there, but I think when it comes to international schools, there's like different tiers, if you will.
Definitely.
Obviously, I just want to say college is definitely the highest up there, but international school also deserves some recognition. So, do you have anything from your time at Heritage?
Oh, for sure, man. Because I experienced a lot of good like sports rivalries growing up. But really, like when I think about like if you just say like who was your rival as an athlete, like instantly I think of when I was playing sports at Heritage. So just to give some context for the listeners, like when I lived in Uganda, there were quite a few international schools, and we all played in the same league that was just for international schools, which basically is just students from all around the world that, you know, come and learn from one curriculum that will allow them to go on to, you know, higher education wherever they want, right? I think there were like 8 or 9 international schools that all played each other in this league, but 2 of them were the 2 American international schools. One of them being the one that I went to, Heritage. Heritage was like a really small school. It was a Christian school. It was kind of a newer school. But our rival, they were called ISU, so International School of Uganda, and they were like
That's crazy.
the American school.
Mhm.
Like if you like looked up international schools in Uganda, like they're gonna be one of the first ones to come up, if not the first. And like that's where all the, you know, embassy kids go, and like
Yep.
the most, you know, the most privileged people would go there. Let me just put it.
Yep.
And we hated them for that. Like they always felt like they were better than everyone, and like I don't know. Fortunately for us, we in the time that I went to Heritage, we were like an athletic dynasty. Even though we were so tiny,
Dynasty.
such a tiny school.
Dynasty.
No, literally, I can't. In the whole time that I went there, I think we lost 1 basketball game out of like
Capital D.
and like
Dynasty.
we did not lose. But even though we would beat that team so bad, there was just something personal about like we would see some of those kids in the mall somewhere, and like it would ruin your day. Like you just see them in the mall and you'd be pissed off. Like you just saw one of those athletes from a different school. That for sure is the number one for me. There's countless memories I have of playing against them, mostly beating them, but man,
Yeah,
we hated them.
I definitely want to share a story here too. So I also went to an international school for high school in Taiwan called Morrison Academy. It's similar to your school, Ben. This is also American school. It's a Christian school. You know, there's a different American schools on the island, but there's also similar to the International School of Uganda. We have TAS, Taipei American School.
Yeah, that's
So
the same type of vibe.
yeah, so not only this is East Asia at this point, you know, like there's different. I mean, there's Singapore, there's Taipei, you know, Hong Kong. TAS is definitely a big rivalry for us. When I went to Morrison, at this point, our school didn't play soccer with them because of previous incidents that happened, and this is just what was shared with
Wow.
me. So like And even for basketball, we rarely play them in big tournaments. If anything, it's like something friendly type of thing. They never, in my 4 years, they never came to my school. So like,
it was just that much animosity.
yes. So I played JV basketball, obviously eventually varsity, but during JV, the way our coach like talked to us, like, I don't care if you win the TISA tournament, which is the Taipei International School tournament. We're gonna play TAS at one point. If you beat them, that's great. Like
That's better than the championship.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's like my first time. Like, okay, like obviously as a fan, I understand what rivalry was, but now as an athlete, oh, this is like I feel like LeBron James representing Cleveland. You know,
That's genuinely. I'm not kidding with you, Jack. That was genuinely how I felt going into this game this past Saturday. That like I don't really care about what happens in the playoffs. I don't really care about a national championship, if we're being honest. I wanted to beat Michigan, and that was taken away from me.
Yeah, so that's my next question. Like, we all had these like rivalry experience. Like, what was the worst on the other side? Like the lost. Like, what was that like for you guys? Like, would you say this past weekend is one of them?
For me, it is, honestly. There's so many reasons why, though. Like, I feel like this year was the year where it was like an afterthought almost. Like, it's just like, okay, finally, we've lost to them twice in a row now. We're gonna beat Michigan. Like, it's time, you know?
Wait, is it 2 times or 3 times?
This is the third time.
This is the third year in a row. That has not happened in our lifetime.
And like,
I thought you guys haven't won since 2021.
Wait, hold up.
Because Ryan Davis.
Correct. It's 2024. So 22, 23, and 24.
Yeah. Since Ryan Day's been here, since Ryan Day has been at Ohio State, we have not won. Which, you know, that's a whole conversation on its own. He's gonna be packing his bags probably, but yeah, I don't know. This just felt like the year that it's like, all right, we got it. Finally, we're gonna beat Michigan. It just was the biggest letdown. I'm so glad I'm not in Columbus to feel that vibe. Like,
so this is kind of off topic, but not really. I've got a friend who works in the OSU athletics office who works specifically in like ticketing, and she said, listen, when we lose a game like that, we get flooded with like probably 20 or 30 emails from older people that are like wanting their money back for like the bad game. Can you imagine working in the athletics department? Like, this was such a bad game. I demand my money back. That's
just
so
give
funny
me my
to me.
money back.
That somebody would take the time out of their day to email them and say, the Buckeyes played too poorly. I deserve to be compensated.
I think what's so special about the game is like, it's part of Thanksgiving now.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
like Thanksgiving, it's a tempo event for OSU fans and the North team, whatever you guys call it. You know, so just like the anticipation for this game was just, I think last few weeks when we talked, Caleb, you were like, we're gonna lose, you know, and Ben, you were a little like worried. But when it comes to rivalry game, that's like out of the window. And yeah, I was definitely shocked. I was following the game on my way to the airport and watching towards the end. I'm just like, you know, as someone who has, you know, done some sports betting, like the odds, I just couldn't believe it. Sorry for you both.
Here's so while I was at the game, it's funny. While I was at the game, obviously, if you watched the game, you saw a bunch of fights break out after the game ended. Stayed and watched some of that. It was exhilarating watching that flag be ripped off of that like flagpole when they tried planting it. I'm not gonna lie, like, I do not condone violence, and thankfully nobody was seriously injured. But it was very satisfying seeing that flag ripped off a flagpole.
Injured? Pepper spray.
In you're fine. You're fine. For the first time,
athletes.
for the first time, it wasn't OSU students. And here's the thing: I'll say this: our students play dirty in these scenarios because they know they're from Ohio State and they can get away with it. I'll say that. For the first time, it wasn't Ohio State athletes getting like in trouble or pepper sprayed. So obviously that's not a good, we don't want that to happen, but it was very exhilarating watching that flag get ripped out. I think it's disrespectful to try and plant your flag on any team's field. Like people put a, like, even outside of that, maintenance people dedicate so much time to making these fields try and look manicured. Like don't be disrespecting people's property. You know what I'm saying? It's a game
So
at the end of the day.
you're telling me, Caleb, if this Ben, you two, next year, if you guys play at Michigan, you don't want to see your flag planted in the middle?
They better
if that
do
happens?
I'm not on that. Hey, Caleb can say what he wants. I'm not a fan of them trying to do that not on our home turf.
Yeah.
However,
when the roles are reversed, I will gladly.
If we just happen to be over there, if we just happen to be up north, putting a big block O in the middle of the big house, then I'm happy.
Yeah, same. Really, it's just I'm just upset that it happened to us. But all of that to say,
yeah, it's literally the most hypocritical thing. But it's all right. We're cool
sure.
with it. Yo.
So while I'm at the game, so I'm there, me and my boyfriend, and we are like trying to watch our seats, and we see, oh, there are no open seats in this row that we paid for. Now, keep in mind, these tickets were not cheap tickets, right? And so I walk over to our seats, and there are these two people in our seats, and they say to me, well, and they look at me like this. For our listeners that are, if you've never checked out our YouTube channel, this would be a great time, so you can see what I look like right now. They looked at me sort of like this. Well, there are people in our seats, so, and then she kind of like shrugged her shoulders like that, and I said, well, you're gonna have to go move them the way I'm moving you right now. And when I said that, the way like 5 people turned and looked at me and went like, and then I proceeded to stand directly in front of them because I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, what you mean? Looking at me like I'm gonna go and steal too. It's like, this is a chain reaction. Somebody has to, like, this is the most packed game of the entire year. Okay, the stadium is packed. You are going to have to go kick somebody out of your seat. Okay, and so it got me thinking. And then I started looking up, like, because I felt like it was the first time that I've really noticed people trying to, like, genuinely avoid conflict in a scenario that is 100% just like, there are rights and wrongs in this scenario. And so it made me thinking, like, why do you think, because this is what a lot of people say this about our generation, why do you think so many people in our generation are conflict averse or conflict avoidant, you know?
That's such a good question, man. I think the answer is probably very complex. If I had to put it simply, I just think that, like, it comes down to the fact that, like, people are just not okay with having real human interactions. I don't even think it really has that much to do with conflict.
Yeah.
I think the conflict, like, it adds an element to that, but I just think that people are just terrified of other people in general. And so, like, when you add that layer of, like, discomfort of, like, oh, I'm gonna have to be in this disagreement with someone right now, then it's just, like, an insurmountable thing for people. And I don't know if that just comes from, like, so much interaction these days being online instead of, like, actually talking face to face. Like, yeah, it's literally, it's not even just conflict. Like, you can't approach someone and say, like, hi, how are you? Have you ever, like, when's the last time you did that? If you go up to someone right now, like, if you are out walking in the street and you say, like, hey, how are you doing today? They will look at you like you're insane. As a matter of fact, here's a good example. My neighbor who lives in the same hall as me in my apartment building, I, like, will cross paths with her and I will, like, smile at her, one of my neighbors. She literally will, like, turn around and walk the other way, like, because she is that avoidant of, like, interaction. And I'm not, like, trying to start a conflict with her. I'm not even trying to start a conversation. It's literally just like, I'll smile and say, like, hi. That's it. And people can't even handle that. So yeah.
I think a big reason is not having enough examples to watch growing up. I think people live in an age of digital media. So, Ben, like we said, a lot of discourse are happening online. So there's not enough examples to demonstrate how to disagree or how to handle conflict. And for me personally, I think it also comes down to how you watch your parents handle conflict at home or your siblings, and how it's done. In the age of polarization, they don't think like you basically dehumanize the other. So how, and when I went to college, it was one of the first few times where I saw people on a panel discussion like openly disagreeing, great points, but shook hands. Or in sports, but that's a different, it's different when you like have conflict physically, but when it comes to disagreeing on an idea or opinion on things, I think that's something like the emotional weight can be too stressful to handle for a lot of young people. And I think that's honestly what comes down to like it's like it's
See,
this avoiding conflicts.
my thoughts on it are this. It's funny that you say that. I actually think part of it, like if I'm dissecting it after you guys shared, I think part of it when you look up, so as I was preparing for this, I was looking up like key traits of like our generation. And one of them was like the key trait of our generation is that we are the ghosting generation. And we are like the cut ties generation. And I think part of that is that because we don't understand conflict resolution and because we've grown up in such a cancelable world, and I don't care what anybody says, like I don't care liberals or Democrats, the art of canceling somebody publicly has gone on really sort of kicked off with 9/11 when the Dixie Chicks got like canceled real hard for speaking out against George W. Bush and saying they were ashamed that he was a Texan. And like their tour, I feel like we can cement that as like that was one of the times that like cancel culture destroyed some of the top artists' entire careers for years, right? But I would say, regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, this idea of we disagree, so we cut ties is so prevalent that any sort of conflict is just easy. It's like almost like we're getting out in front of it. We're getting ahead of it. We're just like, we want to avoid it altogether.
Yeah.
Because because here's the thing, like I've had people say to themselves, like, I've probably had it out with all of my best friends, like had it out with most of my like best friends, where it's like we've had a conflict and we've cussed each other up and down. I had a best friend that we got into a fist fight this one time. 5 minutes later, we were laughing and we were fine, right? People don't understand how to like, and maybe that's just how I was raised, but like you should have a zeal and passion. You should stand up, I think, for the things that you think are right, and you shouldn't allow conflict to be this thing that is like immovable and like, oh no, now the relationship's over. Like you should be able to get into arguments. You should be able to get heated with people and then take a step back and be like, yo, like everything's going to be okay. We don't have to throw away the relationship, you know?
Definitely. I think one of the sad parts about the whole fear of conflict as well is that like it also just leads to people being less happy and less satisfied. It's this weird situation where you think that you're gonna be happier by avoiding a situation that might be uncomfortable in the moment, but by avoiding that situation, you're putting yourself in a whole new situation where now you've compromised what you actually wanted. And so it's like then you have to live with that. And to me, that's just a price that is not worth paying. I would much rather get into a disagreement and face that uncomfortable situation of telling someone like, hey, you're in my seat, you need to move, than have to scour around the rest of the stadium looking for a seat, because like it's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to conflict with someone maybe closer versus like folks who are sitting in your seats, Caleb, like when it comes to your friends or family, like conflict looks a lot different because there's something to lose there.
True.
So for someone like me who, I'm an achiever, I'm a peacemaker, I'm a S on the disc, I just want peace like I'm mediating a lot of different things. So
Do you know your Enneagram?
I'm a three wing something. I think unhealthy wise, I'm like a peacemaker, which I don't know what that number is. I think it might be a 9. However, Ben, I actually remember during college, I think my senior year we would like meet up and just catch up because I know we're both pretty busy. So I feel like I was intentional about like, hey, how I hang out with Ben. So I remember one time I asked you like, I feel like there's a lot of people around me who have, I think 8, which is like the, I don't know,
Yes.
strong personality,
Yeah.
very direct, very like openly. So I
Ben,
was
you're an
around.
8?
Yeah.
That's so crazy. So I'm a 3 too, and Jack, I know exactly what you're talking about because 3s and 8s are the most primed for leadership. We just go about it in 2 different ways. So, an 8 be working my nerves too, Jack. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Jack does have a lot of 8s in his life. I remember this conversation you're talking about, Jack.
So I was talking to him, I'm like, man, like I just feel like I'm surrounded by really people who have very strong belief, and to me, like that's something. Not that I don't have strong belief, but a lot of times I'm just like I learn to know all the information before I make a decision if something is right or wrong. So what I was asking Ben, like, man, it feels like every situation something could blow up. Not with you, Ben, but like just around
Just
people with strong person, especially when you put them in the same room. But you said something that really helped me with my perception of conflict, and hopefully this is helpful to those who kind of deal with the same, who are like me, who who does avoid conflict. Typically, is conflict at the end of the day is finding the truth. It is you're fighting over what is the right thing, and to me that helped me in terms of like if I don't challenge with this person and what they believe in, then I'm not gonna challenge their belief and how to think differently and whatnot. So I feel like since then, when it comes to friends and family, like I definitely have stood my ground because I knew what I believed in, and then I challenged the other, what they were standing up for. I think it's different when it comes to like, is it worth fighting for?
Yeah.
Is worth my emotional distress, because I think that's something I do a lot. I take a lot of time to acknowledge what I'm feeling, and I write a journal. When I do confront, I do it in the calm setting, using the hey, I language. I feel this way, setting boundaries. But when it comes to people who I know are narcissistic, who are not willing to be wrong, like, look, I don't have one life. Someone who moves all over the country, not just in the US, but also like overseas. I don't got time for this, and that's a bad third culture kid trait sometimes because I cut people off easily, and that's something I'm working on. But I would say at this point, like if a friend says something, like I'm definitely comfortable confronting them when the setting is there. I don't know. How do you two, like you both are like, how do you handle conflict, Ben and you, Caleb, since you guys are what I would say, bigger personalities, maybe more vocal, dominant in a disc personality, whatnot.
No, I think this is an area that I've had to do a lot of self-reflection on because like conversations that I've had, like the one that you're mentioning, Jack, it makes me realize that sometimes confrontation comes across as like abrasive. When to someone like me, when I'm confronting you about something, when I'm challenging you on something, it is it's not with the idea of I need to be right in this moment. It's like, no, show me what you actually think. Show me how you got there. Like you said, kind of like getting to that truth of things. But definitely I found that it is important to strike that balance, to figure out like, okay, what are the things that are worth getting
Yeah.
into this over? What are the things that are not that important? Where someone who might interpret your confrontation not the way that you intend it, you just don't want to go there. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a very tough balance to strike, but it's important, and I think really the key to one of the keys, I should say, to good conflict is to realize which of the mentalities of the person that you are approaching has. So if you're talking to someone who approaches conflict the way that I do, you're going to do that differently than someone who approaches it the way that Jack does. So I think it's, just really important to recognize how the other person is thinking about it.
Yeah. I think for me, I go back to this. So I learned part of the thing that I feel like I excel at, and that I use is literally my job, is understanding how to word things and how to lay out information to go about getting what you want, right? And so what I sort of approach conflict like, this person wants something out of this interaction, or they wanted something, or they're going to want something out of this interaction, and I want something out of this interaction. How do I start off with extending an olive branch to help get them what they want or what they need out of this, so that I get what I want and what I need out of this, right? And wherever there is conflict, or wherever there is the discrepancy, how do I shine light or share perspective to hopefully, or ask questions to understand their perspective so that it can be resolved, right? Because of how I grew up, my grandmother, I mean, when I think about some of her catchphrases, a closed mouth cannot be fed or heard. That means if you do not open up your mouth and say something, there's a very good chance that you're not going to get your needs met. That's the fed part. And you're not going to be heard, right? If you're not feeling heard, that means you're going to have internal conflict within yourself about why you allowed your boundaries to be crossed, or why you watched something happen that you didn't believe was right and you didn't speak up. You know what I'm saying? And those are internal battles. Here's my perspective on life. Life is going to be complicated, and not to get too spiritual here, but the Bible says man's days are few and full of troubles. If everything externally outside of like my home is going to be complicated, I want everything internally within myself to be clear conscious. This is the reason why I don't like to lie to folks. I don't like cheating on stuff. I don't like doing any of that stuff, because it's like there's enough external anxieties. I don't need carrying around any internally with me needlessly. So the easiest way to do that is to just address the things that are, I mean, I would say, a lot more confrontational than other people, but I try to do it in a grace-giving way. And I try to start every conversation off with giving somebody else the benefit of the doubt that they are not malicious, unless there is clear evidence that somebody is malicious, right?
Right.
Everybody gets the benefit of the doubt from me. I at least strive for that, right?
Yeah.
And so I would just say there are external anxieties that you are going to have to deal with that are outside of your control for the rest of your life. The things that are inside your control is your internal conscience, and making sure that you're not betraying yourself, your perspective of truth, and making sure that you are consistently marching towards that North Star of truth, like Ben said, you know?
Yeah, it's a form of honesty just with yourself.
Yeah.
You have to live with yourself your whole life. So
Oof.
totally agree, Caleb.
Ben, did you have anything similar to happen with Caleb, where you had to confront someone, a stranger? Now that you're in, where are you? You're on vacation, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
Dominican
you're
Republic.
you're in the
Travel, man.
resort, like
You know, there's always conflict.
the
when you-
airport. I always want to say something.
I know. Airports are the worst when it comes to that, man.
Dude,
And
don't get me started, bro.
I'll give an example. Just like one of the things I hate in airports, where it's like confrontation will arise for me, is when like people are just rushing for no reason. Like, you know, when
Amen.
boarding groups come up,
Oh
and it's
my.
like, we're boarding group 2, and then like people from group 4 start standing like kind of close to the gate, and it's like, fam, you're gonna get on that plane, and
Right.
like,
Or when you land in the dock and people behind you start walking down the aisle.
You want some
Trying to
conflict? You want to find out how conflict averse John D is? Pull up real hard behind me when we land that plane. Ooh, or clap. Ooh. Don't let me hear somebody clap. I say this out loud every single time. Landing the plane is the bare minimum. We should not applaud not killing us. I refuse.
Oh man. Yeah. We got to talk about travel a little bit more because there's a lot that can be said about pet peeves or whatever you want about travel. But speaking of this trip that I'm on, I did want to share with you guys kind of how I even ended up here, which I think is a pretty unique experience, and it's actually the first time that I've like done something like this. So I'm pretty excited about it. Let me give you
Wait,
guys a quick like breakdown of where I'm at right
yeah,
now.
I was just gonna say, like, where are you? How long are you there?
Yeah.
Um, how much did you pay? Because I need some of what you're having right now. I'm following your Instagram stories, the food, the drinks,
Yeah.
like
And honestly, I
it.
feel like I'm keeping it a lot more low key than I could, bro. If I wanted to be acting like I was flexing on people, I could. But at the end of the day, it's really not flexing because I'll get into it. I'll explain. But I'm staying at an all-inclusive 5-star hotel in the Dominican Republic. Flew here last Tuesday, and then I'm leaving tomorrow, which is Tuesday as well. So a full week over here based off that info, flights, 5-star hotel for a week, all inclusive, on the beach, all this stuff. Wild guess, like how much do you think this trip costs?
Pal, I know how much the trip costs because I've looked into it. The Dominican Republic is really nice. I would say here's what I would guess. I would guess it's probably I'm gonna say $400, $500 per person per day. So I'm gonna say it's probably with flights, hotels, food, all of that
Yeah,
stuff
let's say for
included.
both me and Abigail. Yeah.
I would say probably at minimum $500 a day per person.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right around there. I mean, a 5-star resort, all inclusive during Thanksgiving. Yeah, definitely around like 5 or 6. I know you share a little bit, but like, yeah, but lay it for us. Lay it out for us.
So I broke it down, and the reason I had to break it down is because this is a would be cost. This trip that we're on would have cost us about 6 grand. And if you know me,
Knew it.
yeah, you were close actually. That's impressive. If
I
you know
knew it,
me,
man.
I am a broke grad student right now. I don't got 6 grand for a week vacation. No, sir. So, real quick, I want to give a quick breakdown of how I was able to do this whole trip for $0. And I'm talking literally not a single penny was spent except for the tips that we've been like tipping people who work here, but like flights, hotel, everything completely free. We used credit card points to pay for the entire thing.
Nice.
That's
Gentlemen,
incredible.
do you guys have credit cards? Do you guys know about points and use them?
I have too many credit cards, but this year I'm actually really proud of myself. I haven't talked about this very much on here, but this year I paid down like 80% of my credit cards, and I had a pretty high number, and I've paid down like so my credit cards are only at like 20% capacity right now, so I'm really happy with that. I have two specifically that I use for points. So I have I use my Apple cash back, and then I've got an Amex, a Delta. It's like one of the purple. It's like a Delta Platinum something, but
Mm-hmm.
I get
And
points. Yeah, I get points for. So there is a fee on it, but I always get a companion. I get a companion flight credit with it every year, and then I try to specifically use it for like the miles like with gas and groceries and then stuff like that. And I typically don't check it for like a year and a half, and then I stumble in there, occasionally when I have to update my address or something in Amex, and I'm like, oh hey, look at all them points in there, and then I buy stuff. So
mm-hmm.
I use Chase Sapphire and Freedom and Discover. So am on a boat where I probably need more to get the most out of the points because I'm not in Dominican Republic right now. So clearly,
dude, I think that Chase Sapphire is like one of it's like top 5, I think, for like
it's great. I mean, I am using it for different things. I have used it to pay for different trips, in terms of, I think even the trip to Taiwan last year, I exchanged it like for one of the flights, and then I paid the other one. So I think there's just so many great benefits out there. It's sometimes just keeping track of all of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but to swing a chip like what you have, Ben?
Yeah.
Tell us.
So
Listen, Gaib.
listen. we have a whole system when it comes to the credit cards, and the reason for that, the logic behind it is like, you need credit cards in today's society because it's important to build credit. Like, we wouldn't have been able to buy our house without having solid credit. Like, these are things that you need to have. So if you need it already, why not learn how to game the system and get the most out of it, because
Yep.
so many of these different credit cards and these companies come with different perks and rewards. And I don't know, like, I just grew up not knowing about these things. I was always told, like, you should be scared of credit cards and you're going to go into debt and all these things. And now I've really learned that that is not the case if you know how to use them responsibly and are organized and plan these things. Just a quick how to swing this kind of a experience and more, because maybe travel isn't your thing, but there are credit cards that have all kinds of different perks and rewards, um, that are like awesome and tailored to every individual person's needs or wants. All this information, just to throw this out there, go to YouTube University. That's where I learned all this stuff.
Yeah.
Um, you got to start with a beginner credit card. Start building up that credit. Most people listening to this probably already have one. Do that. But then while you have that card and you're using it responsibly, get in those good habits of learning how to use a credit card, paying off your bills in full every month, being organized, keeping your usage rates low. Like, if you have a
Yeah.
$10,000 credit limit, don't use all $10,000 of it just because it's there. Keep it low, like Caleb was talking.
Please don't do that.
Exactly.
You will please don't do that, because homeboy, let me tell you something. That post college,
The swipe.
yeah, I told you, run it up, run it up. We'll take two. Appreciate it. You know what I'm saying?
But when you do have those skills, once you've built them and while you're learning to build those, go ahead and, like, I encourage people to look up the different cards that are out there and the perks that come with them. Find the ones that mean something to you, that you feel like you could benefit from. So for my wife and I, we love traveling and we love hotels. So those are two different categories that we have found credit cards that are tailored to. So we have one card which has points that are more tailored towards travel. And we have a different card that has points that are more tailored towards hotel stays. You can get them for restaurants, you could get them whatever you want. There's a card out there. When you find those, though, the key is to find the ones that have big sign on bonuses in terms of the points, or
Yes.
like referral bonuses for referring
Yes.
friends to the cards. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, when you spend money, you will get points. But unless you spend an absurd amount of money and make an absurd amount of money, those points aren't really going to add up. The way to do it is when you sign up for a new card. So it sounds scary and it sounds like bad advice, but essentially what I'm saying is sign up for as many cards as you can that have those bonuses. And don't do it all at once because that will affect your credit, but like over time, plan it out. Refer friends to cards so that you can get these bonuses. Like, Abigail and I have referred each other to different cards and signed up for them. Like, apply for those and literally just repeat that. And these cards, like, the points stack up and you can oftentimes transfer them from one card to another, from one company to
Yeah.
another. Just to kind of like wrap up the advice in a couple things. Be wise, do your research. I strongly recommend checking out some YouTubers like Graham Stephan, John Liang, Brian Jung. These are just some of the people that, like, I spend my nerdy time watching on YouTube to learn about personal finance and cool things like this. But Jack, I want to see you in the Dominican.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need, I'll refer you. I'll refer you, man.
Yes, send it over.
You'll get the
Hey,
points. I'll
and
get the points.
listeners, if you want, you DM us. Ben will happily send that over. But wait until I get it, though.
Ben, wait.
Ben already got his trip. I need mine now.
I love it. Listen, I know we have our creative weekend already planned for January, but the next one has to be someplace tropical. The next one has to be someplace all inclusive. All right, all inclusive.
That would be amazing, and we could do it. That's it. We just got to plan. That's all it is.
Got to plan it.
Here, in the words of Scott Galloway, and if you don't know who Scott Galloway is, he's Prof G. He's got an amazing podcast that I listen to like week over week. I think he is a genius. He says this advice to young people, and this is my last thing that I'll say about it. You can have it all. You just can't have it all at one time. You can't have it all right now. But what Ben is saying of like plan it out, start building, start looking at these. I've gotten all of my credit cards when there's been like a big offer going on. I think when I got my Amex, I got like, it came with like 100,000 free miles or something like that. That translated to like 3 free flights. Plus I get like a flight credit. I mean, Ben, you're absolutely right. Plan that stuff out and go out, and so you can be in the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to be up there too.
Getting tan for free.
For free.
Sheesh. Well, I'm trying to do that next year for sure. Well, as always, thank you all for joining us today. We hope this episode brightened your day. And we truly appreciate the community we are getting to build with this podcast. If you enjoyed this episode and listening, don't forget to rate us 5 stars on all listening platforms and share this episode with a friend or a family. Follow us on all social media platforms at Generation Varied. And if there are any topics you would like to hear us discuss in the future episodes, shoot us a DM or email us at generationvaried@gmail.com. We cannot do this without you.